Hey everyone, this is your OG, Original Gamer, and this is another Godforge video. Today we have a real treat for you, as we'll be breaking down the mountain of new information that Simon and Fateless released today, including never before seen looks at the faction campaign areas and possible rewards for beating each, a possible Pantheon Hall look or two, and new data around awakenings, which stats we may need to prioritize, and finally, Simon is going to reveal the upgraded UI for battles. You will not want to miss this one. Without a moment more, let's optimize.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. Right, today we're going to be looking at some of...
Alright, so Simon is giving a weekly drop of information about upgrades to the game and the work that the team has been doing. So, he says that they've been playtesting and they're really working on dialing in the feel. Does it feel right? Does it, does things that, so that tells us we're at a very close stage to being, what you might call done or usable by the outside public. So this is exciting. Good news. I would say this it isn't directly stated that they're on track, but it's a good sign from somebody with experience in this sort of process. So it looks like they're absolutely on track. And really just trying to dial in some of these real key pieces. You'll notice over Simon's left shoulder, there's a change here to this screen, even though Saf got Zeus up in the upper left there. Saf still got Zeus, and I don't know, he must be real proud about it because he mentions it a lot. But if you see over Simon's left shoulder, we now have a different name there for the Well of Divinity is now what looks to be the something of creation. So just want to call that out. That looks to be something fairly new that even though this is probably a placeholder, there's some interesting changes to it. All right, we won't hold up too long on that. So they talks about UI and then user experience, and that's their focus. Obviously, as gamers, they want the user experience to be right where it needs to be. And I'm going to be honest with you, in this video, we're going to brag on Fateless a bit because they are just knocking it out of the park and proving that this strategic approach of like a game made by gamers and the community is the right way to go. I mean, what you're going to see in this video, like what they release, looks awesome. It makes sense. We'll talk about why, they're choosing to go this way versus that way. But you're seeing very informed decisions being made by people who have sat in your position and understand why you might want to pin, as he's saying here, your champion, why you might want to lock your champion, why you might want to be able to do certain things like this, what it can do for you in terms of quality of life. I have watched many videos of Simon's quality of life upgrade requests to raid, that didn't ever become anything. And so I think this is the final chance you see where they can put all of it into play, and what we're seeing is really phenomenal. So we won't stick too long here. They do talk about pinning heroes, locking heroes, things like that. He talks about how to see this screen, and this is the new and updated version that he's showing right here. So I'm going to pause right here. We'll go back just a second so you can see if you have Hercules, the Mighty Redeemer, in this upper header area here. They are going to take back this space, and they are going to move some things into the right side over here, but they're going to drop the sets because, as he mentions later, these can be just seen under the armor. Maybe they don't have to also be seen out here. I think it's a good point. I'll get into that as we go forward. So here's the first one. You see sort of that banner. Obviously, that reduces the kind of like borders and entraps the character within this box. I'm going to show you how I think their changes are really positive and why. So here is the new version. And what I'm going to show with this is it creates a more expansive feel. It feels like the character's screen goes right off the screen and continues indefinitely onwards. With that title bar or that, main banner before, it really made sure you felt trapped within the screen. So I love this because it feels more expansive, more of a larger world, and we're just in a little piece of it. We're zoomed in and we can feel that. So I think the changes are awesome. This right side, Legendary, Hercules, Mighty Redeemer, your stars, your level, all of that looks great. It's fine. I'm curious what this red symbol is here. I don't think we've seen this one before. This obviously order and a brawler, but I don't think we've seen this symbol. So I'm curious to see what this is. These cross swords with the blue flame and the 35,128. Not sure if that's the experience level Hercules is at, or if that's his ultimate cost, what it costs him to use his ultimate. Not sure. You can see his stats are a little high. His HP, attack, and defense there's like zeros in there added that I don't think should be. Like, I think his HP should be 4,350 and his attack should be 1,450 and his defense should be 1,350. But we'll see. This is an interesting thing, and we'll go into the stats here and what we can learn from them as well, because Simon is playing with Hercules and he's prioritizing his HP and his attack, so obviously that spells dual multiplier, but also has his defense almost 1-to-1 with his attack, which, if this is accurate and aren't just placeholders, of course, that would be a really telling sign to perhaps how important defense is going to be when we get into the game. You may not be able to sacrifice on defense and go all attack. It just may not be something that works well for you. Notice, though, the speed, only at 130, so that's fairly low, and the initiative is 230, so that looks to be a very important feature, perhaps maybe even more important than speed. As you can see, that number when he's at level 48 is much higher than perhaps speed has only gone up about 30%. Notice too, crit rate is only up to 40. He's not crit capped, but he does have a lot of crit damage on him. So again, if these numbers are in any way real, then that's an interesting thing to look at right there, what Simon may have been prioritizing stat-wise as he is building up this character to level 60. He has 300 accuracy and 300 resistance, which obviously they start well under 100. So that's big in terms of how important perhaps resistance and accuracy might be. There you can see a lock button, so you can lock your champion so you don't accidentally use them as a food champion. If I have so many Herculeses, I'm like, which one is my food champions? And no, I'm just kidding. No, it's a great feature because when you can lock it, you can make sure you don't accidentally change it. When you're maybe squinting at the screen at 1 in the morning and you make a mistake, you don't want to do that. So I like that. And then there's a promote button there. So he talks about what can be hidden behind these like 5 choices and bring up different screens and keep it looking sleek and clean without all the clutter, because there's just so much that you also need to get in there as well. So I think they've done a phenomenal job. This right here is a massive improvement, I think, over the banner style, the initial, because of how expansive it makes it feel. Like, I already feel trapped back into the screen there. So that's just your OG's take. From a software background, I like this feel a lot. I like how they extended the background past the characters on the left here. This also increases that feeling of just the game is so much bigger. I guess they had that before, but it feels like they added detail maybe to it, or yeah, because it was probably blurred out here. But they brought it to life, and it feels far more expansive. Okay, so after, I'll go back just a split second. So he talks about the info page, sort of your first page, and then he jumps to armor on this one, that's why. Okay, so we'll go to abilities and armor and awakening and masteries. So this is the armor one. You can see all of the stats that Hercules has. He has no armor on in any of this, so that lets you see simply what the growth is over his levels from different stat groups. But again, we have to be careful because it could be these stats we have for Hercules already, and they match up every time we see him. So I'm thinking this close in, we're going to start to have stats pretty well fixed and probably understood, because their ratios, they're going to want to maintain their ratios and the power economy of the game with the characters' stats. So this next tab here would be abilities. This would be your basic, your core, and your ultimate, something of those natures. Now, I think it's interesting here that I actually like the B, the C, and the U. I know that sounds so terrible, but like I knew, oh, basic core. Okay, I know what I'm using, and so I like the increased art here and artistic feel, but I also feel like I'm so guilty of this where I get in, I'm like, crap, I haven't used this character in a minute. What is their skill again? Which one am I wanting first? The A2, A3, and so I'd love it if maybe there was a way, like if you hovered over each of the skills, it came with a hover over and showed what the skill was or something, or something of that nature. I think would help me, or even a size difference between the basic and the core, so I could tell maybe this left one is the basic and this one's the core and then this is the ultimate. Maybe if they were like increasing in size or something, it would be a little more intuitive for me as to which was my lowest skill, which is my highest skill. I don't mind them being in this sort of like triangle shape, but it does make it, I assume the ultimate's at the bottom, but it does make it a little less intuitive as to basic than common than ultimate. Maybe if just the basic was a hair smaller than the common, that would make it a little easier to understand. I'm curious what these are down here. They certainly look like meters. So is this a divinity meter as to like how close you are to use your ultimate? And why not have that around the ultimate? Like, is that duplicative? I don't know if that's what this is. And I'm not 100% sure what this one is. This almost looks more like it, but this is the a placeholder character's face. It's Leonidas, but it looks like maybe that's the divinity. So these are up for question. What do you think? What do you think these are measuring? It could be speed, like turn meter, and then divinity. But maybe divinity can be done just around the ultimate itself. I don't know. That could maybe simplify it and gain you back a little space. Where you could do the speed one around the, these ones that have turn meter. I don't know. Something to think about. I don't think it's bad, to be honest with you, and you probably want to fill up that space, but that's abilities. We also see that Hercules has a overall attack increase by 35% in all battles. So this is the armor tab here. You can see that the stats are a little elevated for the first three. They probably have a little bit of an extra 0 or 2 in there for some reason. But we get to see a few different gear sets, and there's 3 on him with only 7 pieces of gear. So that tells us that there's probably 3 different 2-piece gear sets, which is always something that Simon has enjoyed, like the ability to mix and match and not be stuck trying to make a 4-piece gear set work when you just don't have it. I think we're going to see a lot of opportunities to use just 2-piece gear sets and create very interesting synergies and dynamics. These links here, the blue links and the blue and the pink links, or blue and the red links, are all about imprinting and putting an imprinting on your gear. So that's what, there's like 3 different types or levels of imprinting. I think if it's like the character is supposed to be for, or the faction is supposed to be in, there's different levels at which you can kind of rack up these imprints. So anyways, that is the armor piece. And so some of the stat increases we see, obviously, like I said, they prioritize HP, prioritize attack. With Hercules, we would expect a dual multiplier there. But having his defense equal to his attack is very interesting. I like to see if that is just a thing, it doesn't matter, or if that's actually telling of what level of defense you're going to need in the game to be able to survive. Like maybe the opponents, as Dirk was saying in the last podcast, are being matched to kind of smack back at you a little bit since you can hit so hard. We will see. But I did find it interesting. We're probably going to want to prioritize, similar stats as we go into the Alpha Tower, but we'll see. And we can probably expect 100,000 to about 130,000 damage is a fair damage expectation from what some of the stats and some of the just infographics and things that we're pulling from. I mean, they have to just put a placeholder in, but that's based off of what they're expecting, levels of damage to be at. So just a little thing we can glean there. All right, we're on to the awakening screen here. As you can see, we're learning a lot. We've never seen, I don't think ever seen this level of detail on this screen. So it starts and ends with an ability modification, okay, which is cool. Like your skill is, changed in some way or morphed in some way. And that's cool because they can do a lot of different things with that to change a character from their base, form as you know them. So I think that adds a lot of dynamicism, because you won't know exactly how good a character is until you've taken it all the way through its full awakening and seen all the ability modifications. That there's 3. There's one at level 1, level 3, and then the level 5. But then you get an initiative bonus at level 2, so that's going to be an important phase line to get past, and an increased initial divinity at level 4, which is going to be huge in terms of getting your ultimate faster and then being able to create those ultimate chains. So we are learning a lot from this screen, and adding that in as we continue to refine our strategy. So you can see he's got Simon here's got kind of his core team. A lot of ultimates, like really just trying to try out the higher end champions and work through, I'm sure, the play testing of those, make sure they're on point. So this is a good part, and then we move on. So he's talking about just the differences in UI and what they're boarding, and then we get to the campaign maps. Okay, and before we do, let me see. Campaign maps, that was, he'll get into that actually more here in a second. Yep, so we talked about the changes here. And now we've seen something of this, but it looks like there's going to be 10 levels per campaign faction area. So Aru has one, Asgard has one, Virage, Olympus, Avalon, although you don't see Avalon there, Tion, Omayakan. So each one will have 10 stages to beat, and it looks like you get 3 ether crystals for beating it. That could just be a placeholder, of course, but that would give you the potential for 27 ether stones, which are like summoning, for summoning champions, by beating the campaign factions. So that is, of course, an early goal you're probably going to have as you get into that global launch. Not in the Alpha Tower, won't imply, but in that global launch, you're going to want to beat these 10 stages 3-star and get all of the ether stones you can to help build the width that you need in the early game. So we get to see some awesome visuals. The worlds look great. Simon talks about how they're going to be adding 3-dimensional pieces like moving fish and things as it goes towards launch that will make these 2D backgrounds kind of come to life and pop. And I love in Asgard here when they show, that's Olympus. Really cool. Each one's designed, of course, to the theme. Really neat. I'm sure it'll match with different, challenges and bosses. This is Asgard. You see the Tree of Life there between stage 5 and 6. That's cool. Very neat. Go Asgard. But again, this is really very new stuff. We've never seen this before. They've never released this as far as I know. And you're getting to see each and every campaign. Here's Aru. There's Avalon, so you've got your Egyptian, and then he's talking about just how, if you can see the health meter bars and all of this, he felt like it felt cheap. So the UI improvements are all designed to really plus these up. And I agree with him. Now as you see it and he says it, it does look simple and just a square and cheap. And so I totally think this is a great call out on their own part to say, we can do better. Let's kick it up the next notch. And I think they did. And if that's just, how they keep going, I can only imagine by the time we get to the end of the year and the global launch, we're going to be really well down the line in terms of some high quality game experience. So that is, Simon talks about that. You can see he's going through all of the different pieces he's going to talk through on here, zooming in and out. We capture all of it, but there's not much that you're not going to see as he zooms in on. So this is some of the new UI look. You can see this is your ultimate or divinity meter here. It glows when it's full, and there's half full, and then there's these are all different options, different ways of doing it. I actually think you could get away with just the color and not even the icon, but for the divinities. But anyways, they're playing with the different looks and feel for the UI, so that it feels that it is simple and easy to use, but also looks and feels polished and clean and really, high speed. So it's great that they're already talking at this level, and that they've, play tested and evolved to this level, because that's just a good sign of their progress. And again, I think it feels like very expansive, and I like that they're really capturing that. Like, it feels like there's more outside the edges of the screen, so even if you're on your phone, it makes it feel like a big game. Zooms in on some of like the text effects, so you can see, look, a strong critical hit is 130,000, a strong is 100,000. So we're probably in these are probably just placeholders, but at the same time they are slight expectations that the team has around what should be at that level. We're seeing and adding a bunch of different effects, buffs, debuffs, and control devices as he's showing them, and we are adding those to our database as well. So I think, he talks about a testing problem that they had, where if you are not in line to go, but you have your ultimate, like Hercules does here, then you can jump in, cut in, and use your ultimate. But the trick was, and I'm going to pause right there, but the trick was being able to jump in and then jump back to your original hero who was in the right turn order. It was a little not confusing, but maybe just not intuitive. So they're changing it so that instead of having a blue fire around you when your ultimate is ready, he will have a purple fire around him that will say, I am stepping in and taking the turn. So that was an interesting thing as well. Now, they get into talking here about the stat screen while you're in battle. Okay, so I want to add my 2 cents to this, because I know Raid has something like this, and you can live see what debuffs are placed and what reductions are placed on the enemy while you're doing it. And I certainly think it could be done better. I've used it at times just to, look at it, but most times it's just when there's really a lot of debuffs and stuff on a boss that I've used it. So this would be sort of the screen that would pop up in battle for you to have all this sort of information given to you about your team and the enemy team. And so this is an overview, and then your team, and then the enemy team. So there's 3 tabs here. There's a lot of information. You can see, you could scroll down. So this is similar to Raid, that you can see which debuffs and buffs are on who on your team and on who on the enemy team. And then there's additional information as we go forward on your team. He's going to show you the next slide down. This will be your team, and now you can see your characters, and there's a lot of information here. You have stats, effects, abilities. So my only concern with this is that I am in a beta wave mindset to be battling and to being in a rhythm-based combat, and pulling me, or maybe, I guess it's good to have options, so I'm not going to say we shouldn't have it, but it's tricky, I think, to balance going in and out of a beta mode brainwave to a more maybe alpha or theta wave, where we're doing things that are very much more like stat optimization and looking at the stats of things. Now, I agree that you need to have these ways of getting the information so that you can, statistically figure out how you need to beat this part and what that enemy's defense is to get over it and what those thresholds are. But I almost think that this is a balance between what you can see in fight versus what your after action looks like and how good of an after action you have. Or maybe if they're saved and you can, I don't know, keep looking at them or look at them as a trend over time. I would prefer, and this is probably just my preference only, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't do it, but I prefer to stay in the fight when I'm in the fight, and it's like I prep myself with the knowledge, and then I go in the fight, and it's all that rhythm-based combat until I complete that. I don't typically jump myself back out to more strategic, statistic-based look while I'm in the battle, because I feel like it takes my focus away from the command and control of the battle right there. Now, sometimes you got something set on auto and you just want to be able to look. What I would say with that is this could potentially be more opaque or more see-through. I'm not sure if I'm using the right word there, but more see-through. So maybe it's not like you can see the battle going behind just a little bit better if you're trying to scroll through all this information. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you prefer that data in fight, or would you prefer it maybe like I was mentioning as an after action report? That's I know like Raid doesn't probably do a very good job. I'd say of like after action report. It's very simple. There's not a lot of like tie into anywhere else. It doesn't give you very good advice. So I think a good after action or something that really gives you a good breakdown of the fight is maybe just as valuable as this or the same intention. So anyways, my thoughts, definitely not something I'd say has to change or be done differently, just my preferences on it. So yep, he's talking about how to be able to see turn meter, divinity bar, all the different, and we added a few new debuffs and buffs there. I think we got some I didn't have in the database, so that's interesting. Yeah, I think it was defense up 3. I don't think I had defense up. I hadn't seen that anywhere. We had seen Radiance 1 and Barrier, and I think we'd only seen Regen 3 or something. So also you have Poison, Attack Down, a Burn, and then Blunt 2. So this looks like Blunt Force Trauma sort of thing. I'm going to assume it's that and not like a Jay and Silent Bob type of thing. But either way, I'm sure there'll be some damage dealers that are just rolling the blunts out there. Yep, I went there. Oh, you can see his skills. So this confirms that King Arthur is a dual multiplier. He has HP and attack despite being a defender. So that's interesting. That would explain maybe why he's got a high defense and a high attack. Or this could just be a holdover from Hercules. So this could be placeholder. So we don't want to read too much, but this is what that dual multiplier skill looks like. And this is, of course, what looks to be the basic skill, right? So this is their A1 or basic skill. This is what you're going to be looking for as a key differentiator for a champion. All right, so then he gets into, stats, last damage done. I mean, this is great. This is very important stuff, but I just wonder if I can handle all of it during a battle. You know what I mean? Or if I'd rather have it and handle it and manage it and sort it and go through it after the battle. Just maybe matter of preference. Not sure. And then you can see stats, effects, abilities. So all just UI feels, ways of like, okay, how do we fit this all in and still not make it feel crowded, make this feel expansive and a large world that they're exploring. So that's pretty interesting. We are going to jump ahead. He talks a little bit about, where was it? Yeah, so this is where he talks about the blue versus the purple fire, if they're jumping in out of turn, and that testing problem that we mentioned before. And let's get past here, and then we'll get to the Pantheons. Okay, so he'll show this again, but this right here is the first Pantheon, I believe. You can see, we'll catch up with it again, but this is some of the looks they have at Pantheons and what your Pantheon main hall could look like. I personally think this one is awesome. I think it looks amazing. There's good light. It feels large. It feels like our whole clan or our whole Pantheon would fit here. You've got tasks over there to the left. It's like a task board. Awesome. You could drop tasks that the Pantheon needs done, and any members can come do them for clan rewards. You got the shop. Awesome stuff. And then you got the two banners there. One says boss and one says wars. So of course you got your Pantheon wars, just like clan wars, and then you got your clan boss or Pantheon boss there as well. So all things we expected. And then the name of your Pantheon, which this one is Fateless. That's why I'm thinking it very well may be the first Pantheon, because Sir Henry White is the individual who does the work for Fateless on their UI. So he probably is the first footprints in here. And so this is what your first look at the first Pantheon in Fateless's Godforge, and it is the Fateless folks. Gives you an idea. You're going to see the leader, the language, and then total power and number of members. Now they're going with 50 members. Your OG said and gave a pretty darn good reason why 40 is better than 50. But hey, I don't make the decisions. I think 40 is far superior to 50. I did an entire video on it, but who knows? Maybe that's just a placeholder. Then we get to see a second look, or another kind of version of what the Pantheon main hall could look like. I think this is neat with the firelight and the candlelight, but it feels a lot doom and gloomier and like just. I think the lighting in the other one gave a much better feel to a social environment where like it's already going to be, you know, an interesting task to get 50 people to work together well. I think this sets the a darker outlook for it. Maybe I'm not sure if that's a thing, but it just sends this feeling that it's like we do dark things here, which I understand that the game does kind of go along that line just a little bit. But I think for a social component of the game, I liked the version with the greater lighting, and it just looked more inviting and opening, and I just want to get in and be a part of the Pantheon and help. So my thoughts, just my thoughts. Then we get back to the first uh, Pantheon here. You see Sir Henry White as the leader, and then you got 3 deputies. So I like this structure. I do like this structure here. Shamurai is the first one. I'm not sure who that is. No, I'm just kidding. And then you have Saphira there. Staff got Zeus. I don't know if you knew. And then Hell Hades and Chosen and Dirk. So that's going to be a pretty good Pantheon. We're going to have to, like, content creators are gonna have to get together or something, because or we're gonna have to go out and recruit from the best of you guys to be able to put up with or compete with this one. But obviously they're doing their in-house testing, so they're testing the Pantheon and testing how that works. And you can see activity, so you get 3 stars worth of activity for doing certain things, gives you when they were last logged in, so you can know if they're just not there anymore, and when they joined. I think that's kind of cool. You kind of get a little seniority there. You know, I joined. I would maybe go to like month and year only, and if like maybe you can expand it and see the date and everything, but it might be better just like MAR and then 25 or MAR 23, and I don't know, just a personal preference on that one. But then it goes right into members, so there doesn't seem to be any levels below leader and 3 deputies, and members, maybe from their experience they just haven't seen that level of like hierarchy hold together well. That's fair. I think I would accept that point. It may not be something that the average gamer just falls right into and understands, so I would understand that. But it'll be interesting to have a leader, 3 deputies, and then 46 other individuals, and how, you know, we manage that large pool of people versus having a little bit of another maybe layer under deputy and above member, which is like team leader or something, and then you have 3 members in the team. Then at least, you know, as a member, you're working to become a team leader, where maybe you never have the hope of being a deputy, you know, because those folks are not going to leave. They established the Pantheon. So I just think it gives some progression too for this poor individual Chosen right here, who's only a simple member. I mean, you know, and same with Dirk. Look, he's only a member. So I'm trying to give them some growth and some runway to be a team leader even. But that's just, you know, obviously something we'll have a little fun with because they're showing us it. But that is an exciting thing. The last piece here, your gamer profile. I think this is cool, and I'm glad that they, you know, showed this out. So this is Sir Henry White again as their UI guru at Fateless. So it shows his player card and, you know, what Pantheon he's with, what level he is. I'm sure each of these 6 crests or shields will align with different achievements he's done. Maybe he beat the Aruf faction campaign, or maybe these are each different, or some of these are different faction campaigns he's beaten, or, you know, he's booked up his skills and his, I'm not sure exactly, but we can definitely infer that maybe he's beaten some of the factions and things like that. And then it also has achievements and then direct chat. So that'll be interesting. Not an area of the game where you maybe have to do a lot of management, other than if you're a talkative person and you use the chat a lot. But like, it just seems like it's a good place to go and get your little dopamine shot and be like, look at me, I rock. I got all these cool, you know, crests and awards and achievements I've done, and this is my most used or my favorite heroes. I like this a lot. Obviously I've mentioned it in a few other of the videos, so it's really cool. I like how they did it. It looks good with the aged kind of rock behind it, makes it look timeless. Really like that a lot. So, guys, this is bringing it to the end. I loved the upgrades and updates that they did. I think it makes it look more expansive, larger, a bigger game than it is in your hand on your phone. Or obviously, if you have, dual monitors like your OG here, then it's going to look amazing. And, obviously, we know it's going to sound amazing. We've seen that. So, really, really great stuff from Fateless. Thanks for stopping by and listening to my thoughts on it. Take care of yourself, and remember, play smarter.